Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. It is the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime. And throughout the Sean Diddy Combs trial, we've been bringing you updates because there are no cameras in the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Say what you will, this is the biggest trial in all the world right now. The United States government versus Sean Diddy Combs. People in Dedham, Massachusetts might beg to differ, but you know what? They're wrong. This is bigger. This has way more global interest by miles and miles. So Mia was on the stand today. This is week 3, day 13 of testimony. And once again, one of Diddy's former assistants / workers, employees, who is giving testimony under a pseudonym, just Mia, M-I-A. She took the stand again for more direct examination. She was on the stand for the better part of yesterday after Sean Diddy Combs, former stylist, who is a funny character. His name was Deontay Nash. He finished up yesterday, and Mia's been on the stand ever since. She eventually today, this morning, faced some very difficult cross-examination questions from Brian Steele, who he has nerves of steel. He is Sean Diddy Combs' defense attorney, and I had a chance to meet him when I was up in New York City. A very, very nice guy, but a incredibly adversarial criminal defense attorney. I mean, he works for his clients, and he will go to town. The guy is highly competitive and incredibly smart, and that's a good combination for a criminal defense attorney and a bad combination for a witness for the government on the stand. So that is where Mia finds herself as we speak. Well, right now they're on lunch, expected back at about 1:15 from a lunch break. So the morning started with typical back and forth between the judges and the government and the defense. Judge Arun Subramanian, who I think has been doing a fantastic job, and he's only been on the bench for a short time, maybe a couple of years, so it's not like he's got a ton of experience with this, but he is discussing how Shawn Combs' legal team, first thing in the morning, can get more time with him to prepare outside of trial hours. Of course, their defense will be given soon, likely toward the end of next week, if not the following week. And this has been sort of the rub against having him detained at MDC Brooklyn by the defense, which I don't think they have a choice in, but they're saying, hey, computers there, they're tough to get in, tough for him to do the work. Can we get more time? So the judge is taking this into consideration now. Obviously, the ultimate decisions with all this, I believe, go back to MDC Brooklyn, which is the notorious detention center in one of the 5 boroughs of Manhattan. Brooklyn it is. And so they got to work in concert with the Department of Corrections in New York City. The defense was raising concerns, I guess obvious ones, about limited access for their client to meet with their client at MDC. Some more issues involving evidentiary issues that the government brought up. Prosecutors want to present charts of hotel and flight records later in the trial, so they're looking ahead. Judge Arun Subramanian took it under advisement. He said he will decide on it at a later time, but again, they want to show charts of hotel and flight records, and those are going to be dizzying charts because Sean Diddy Combs was bopping around the globe at a furious pace, a lot of the time with Cassie Ventura. Shout out to Kenzie, the Newfie's mama. That's a Newfoundland, Flora Paris back, Cindy T, Jermaine, Elenator. Great to see everyone. Copper Horse, who is our steady horse in New Jersey, our great mod. So thank you to her. It takes a village to do all this. Of course, the jury enters Mia then takes the stand and direct examination begins. Mia does, when Cassie Ventura discovers that Shawn Combs was cheating. Not the healthiest relationship. She's caught cheating. Now he's caught cheating. I think he was cheating the entire time. She's talking about a trip to South Africa in October 2015. And there is when Cassie, and by the way, I believe this is the same trip where she gets hooked up with Michael B. Jordan by this guy, Deontay Nash. But now she's finding video on this trip of Shawn Combs with another woman. Cassie Ventura is devastated, and according to testimony from Mia, she stops taking Sean Diddy Combs calls. Very dysfunctional, to say the least. Shawn Combs pressures Mia and others to reach out to Cassie Ventura and try to get her back. And that's interesting. Well, obviously, she's in South Africa at this point, but typically what we've seen in testimony in the past, it's funny, Kay Louise says this trial is unreal. Who lives like this? I guess celebrities, they live pretty chaotic lifestyles. Most do. Mia explains what I was going to say a second ago was that typically Shawn Combs would just come and yank her out of wherever she is, but now she's in South Africa. So now he is pressuring her friends like Mia to try to persuade her and coax her to get back in touch with Shawn Combs. Shortly after this, Mia explains why she said, "love you" in text to Combs. And she said that she was trying to maintain a quote unquote best friend dynamic to feel safe. Now, I've got to say, she talks about post-traumatic stress disorder. She's unable to continue to work now because of this. I think she is an absolute victim. I think this was incredibly triggering for her. It's turned her life upside down. And yeah, if she's saying "I love you," maybe it was to save herself because as she should, she loves herself, and she didn't want to meet the wrath and the ire of Sean Diddy Combs. Mia describes days-long situations where she was getting threatening texts and calls. At that point, Shawn Combs' chief of staff, a woman named Christina Corum, pressured Mia, she says, with overnight texts and calls. So now she's not only getting it from Shawn Combs himself, but she's also getting it from the quote-unquote chief of staff, this woman, Christina Corum. And I'm almost certain we're going to hear from her. Look at this, the COE, this first time ever, in her own name, gifting a membership. So thank you to the COE. And she's tan, and I'm pasty pale white in that little avatar, which is the same situation as today, but I digress. Shortly after this, Mia testifies about having to quote unquote tiptoe around Shawn Combs. This seems to be the case with almost everyone who has testified because of his volatile temper. He had to walk on eggshells. There were emails to Shawn Combs asking for clarity on travel. Said she was constantly trying to avoid angering him. So just imagine having to live in that world where any little thing you say could set off this guy who's an absolute lunatic. She admits, and this is a direct quote, "I was scared of him when she was trying to leave her job. She feared that, number one, her reputation would be destroyed. Number two, her livelihood would be gone," which it would. And she said she felt hopelessly trapped. After this, we're inching closer towards lunch at this point. She testifies to the fact that she was suspended multiple times, including for falling asleep. However, if you recall from yesterday's testimony, there was a point where she did not sleep for 5 full days. Shawn Combs would not let her. He was on drugs. This guy's a drug addict by all accounts, and she was not. And after 5 days, you can start to hallucinate and go slightly crazy. By the way, shout out to one of my best friends who I've never met, Blackwood Orr. You got IGG Rocks, Linda Caputo, the Elinator in there. I always want to say Elunator. I don't know why. So a little bit further on, She's talking about feeling betrayed when Shawn Combs finally shuts down his film company. The catch here is he does not tell her. This is 2016, and Combs closes his production company known as Revolt Films. Mia hears this through the chief operating officer and not Shawn Combs himself. She was working on a bad boy documentary at the time. And by the way, if you've been following my coverage, I did notice when I was in New York City that there is a full film crew inside that black van that picks up Shawn Combs' family members, his kids and his mom, Janice, every day. Inside, there is a film crew shooting. So I would not be surprised to see some sort of Netflix show put together after this. She then talks about an incident in St. Bart's, rough life, 2010. And again, this is why there's this sort of facade of the celebrity life. You're on a yacht in St. Bart's, and everyone on Instagram's like, wow, what a perfect world this is. The sails are flapping in the wind. The sun is setting. People are beautiful with six-pack abs. But what's really going on is you got a psycho boss who's a celebrity who's torturing your life. At this point, Shawn Combs tells her to walk on water, which is what happened with Jesus in Nazareth. And I've been there, actually. It's amazing to go visit that. But this is Shawn Combs, far cry from Jesus. And he's now telling her to, quote, walk on water, and he kicks her off the yacht. He later, once he kicks her off, says, you got to get back on the yacht, and forces her to fly to Las Vegas. So they're going from St. Bart's and the yacht now, and they're headed out to Las Vegas. What's amazing to me is, like, I just don't know. Becky Ireland is right. Another friend, Diddy, is one sick individual. You know, we all work, all of us collectively. We go to work, most of us. We put in a lot of hard hours, and we try to make a living for our families. But the operative word is work. My question is, when the hell was Shawn Combs working for this $1 billion that he has? That's what's so crazy. A guy is constantly high on drugs, constantly partying, constantly running around the world. Like, when are you sitting at your desk? Bill Davis says, I'm at work right now. Yeah, most people, that's what they do. I've come to think Joel can't see with his glasses. My glasses are very smudgy, and if I wear them too long, they give me a headache. If I don't wear them too long, they give me a headache. 2000 is, by the way, someone's in the comments yesterday after the Donna Adelson show said, I really like your show, but please don't talk about your personal life. I got into a little thing about whether it's Cliff or Cliff's notes last night, and only one piece of hate mail. It was a hate comment, actually, and that guy can buzz right off. Flora Paris gifting one surviving the Survivor membership. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Shawn Combs thought that because of this whole altercation in St. Bart's, that he had, quote unquote, been stabbed in the back after she hired attorneys. She hired employment attorneys later on for severance and bonuses. The initial ask here, this is what was starting to happen during this St. Bart's thing, is I guess he could sense that she was feeling unsettled. And then it's literally 2 years later where she's now hiring employment attorneys. And the initial ask was $10 million for severance. They end up settling for $400,000. So they have to give Mia, this is Shawn Combs and his company, $400,000 on a $10 million ask. As we're getting about less than 2 hours from lunch, we hear that Mia actually reached out to Sean Diddy Combs after Kim Porter dies in 2018. Now, Kim Porter is said to be, in Shawn Diddy Combs' own words, his soulmate. So this, of all the women he's cheating on and having affairs and having children with, Kim Porter is the one I think that really stands out. So she learns of Kim Porter's death a year after she leaves the company, and she says she reached out to Shawn Combs to offer condolences, saying it was a very rare personal outreach. And again, reiterates that she still keeps in touch with Cassie Ventura, but the two, she makes it abundantly clear, have not discussed any of their testimony in this case. Now, something interesting, after Cassie Ventura's 2023 lawsuit, which essentially blows this whole thing open, which is why we're at where we're at. D-Rock, he contacts Mia, Mia says. And Mia, and they start reading these texts in open court. So she texts him, and if you'll recall, D-Rock was a member of the security team who went with Shawn Combs to try to hunt Suge Knight down in Los Angeles, but Suge Knight was gone from the restaurant that they were at. So he's a member of Sean Diddy's security team, and she texts D-Rock now saying, D-Rock, all caps, hi, how are you? I miss you so effing much. She writes, and this is read for the jury after she said that D-Rock reached out. I'm about to call you. He messages back. In the phone call, Mia testifies that D-Rock first started catching me up on his life, what was going on. This is all direct testimony, by the way. It sounded like a normal conversation, and then he changed it to, it's crazy what's going on. In her testimony, Mia quotes D-Rock and says, because, you know, Puff and Cass would just fight like a normal couple. Mia told the court the tone made her skeptical. That's not how D-Rock talks, and D-Rock was around that a lot. Mia testified he had witnessed the violence, so she's questioning why he was using the phrase normal couple. At this point, it's a prosecutor whose name is Madison Smizer, and she asked, would you say the fights were normal? And she says, absolutely not. Mia testifies that D-Rock persisted and eventually said that Shawn Combs was going to call her, which Mia testified that he did. And she says, and I quote, I threw my phone as far as it would go and I ran outside. She says it was just so triggering to hear from Shawn Combs. And then comes a follow-up message from D-Rock, the security guard, and it reads, and I quote, your boy said to call you. He doesn't want or need you to do anything. Mia testifies she remembered thinking, oh my gosh, this is never going to stop. So she was scared. She gets more messages from D-Rock in February of 2024. So that's just a year and change ago, including one that says, let me send you something, which Mia testifies she understands as it is meant to be money. Now, keep in mind, Mia at this point is unable to work because of her PTSD. I'm not sure how she is making a living or getting money, but she thinks at this point that D-Rock is offering to send money. And Mia receives then shortly thereafter a message from Sean Diddy himself. Hey, Mia, it's Puff. Please let me know when you get 10 minutes to talk. She said that she never responded to this message. She tells the court, I was quote unquote terrified. Another message comes in 3 days later, and it reads, and I quote, this is direct quote, and there's a lot of these text messages exchanged or offered up for evidence today and shown to the jurors. This message reads from Shawn Combs, hey, I don't want to be blowing up your phone. Just need to talk to you for 10 minutes. Just need my memory jogged on some things. You were my right hand for years, so I just need to speak to you to remember who was even around me, and it would be good to hear your voice. Mia testified that she ignores that message, and then the government prosecutor asked why she didn't respond when it seemed that Shawn Combs was being nice. She says, I knew it was a front. I knew it was a front. Now, Mia's direct testimony, it ends with her explaining to the jury that she's been unable to hold a job since meeting Shawn Combs and working for him. Direct quote, I have not been able to do it because I suffer from complex, severe PTSD. I would be triggered by really normal situations with like an overwhelming sense of fear of being in trouble. The prosecutor asks, who is the person who caused these feelings? Mia answers, Puff. And then court goes into a brief break prior to Mia's cross-examination. So Mia believes that D-Rock was monitoring her as a threat, and they continued texts go again through 2024. Combs texts Mia again saying, hey, I need to jog your memory. They take a break. Again, direct exam ends, cross exam comes up, and you've got Brian Steele for the defense. This is about maybe an hour and a half ago that this stuff happened. Brian Steele says, because of Shawn Combs, you suffer a great deal. That's a question. Mia says, yes. Thank you, Kirsten. I love when you're talking about your life. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't think anyone loves it, but it's not going to change. So there you go. Roughly an hour and a half ago, Mia testifies again about the PTSD on cross exam. She appears guarded, a reporter notes. Her head is down. Shawn Combs, during a break, has blown a kiss to his mother. Now, the defense here, they present text messages of a different sort. One post from October 2013, it shows a picture of Shawn Combs in a coffee shop with a caption, and underneath the caption reads, and I quote, just number one guy on the Forbes list, getting me a vanilla latte, no big deal. And Brian Steele, the defense attorney, notes that the post comes about 4 years, this is a direct quote, about 4 years after you say Shawn Combs has traumatized your life, right? Mia testifies saying one word, yep. So is she caught here, or is she a true victim with PTSD? Well, Brian Steele continues with text messages now, and he posts one from November 4th of 2013. Mia here in this particular text posts a photo of herself in a hospital gown. I don't know if this is a text or if this is, I think this is a social media post. Forgive me. So she posts a photo of herself in a hospital gown as if she is giving birth, with Shawn Combs posed nearby playing doctor, with a caption that reads in part, thank you for always letting me give birth to my dreams. So again, this is now an image of Mia in a hospital bed in the pregnancy giving position, with Shawn Combs dressed as a doctor and her saying, thank you for always letting me give birth to my dreams. Brian Steele asks, you chose this image? She testifies, She says, yep. Brian Steele then continues, and it's the image of Mr. Combs being a doctor and delivering a child, true? And she testifies, the character, yeah, it's a funny video that Andy Samberg directed. He's the SNL alum. I was proud I was in a funny video. Steele said it was 4 years again to the day. He's emphasizing this, that Shawn Combs first SA'd her, meaning Mia, at the Plaza Hotel, which we heard about yesterday, another gruesome attack. Another social media post Brian Steele, the defense attorney, points out, shows Mia wearing a tutu standing next to Shawn Combs, and says it looks like he's holding his private part in his hand. That's what Brian Steele says. If that's what you see, I guess so, Mia says. And this is the image you picked out, he asks again. And she says, yeah. And she says, I didn't want my family and friends to know the misery I was in. Her response, I didn't want my family and friends to know the misery I was in. This is going to be, I guess, a real conundrum for people on this jurors, because they're not therapists. So I don't think that they're trained. And there was a psychologist on the stand, the same one from the Johnny Depp trial that happened already, testified. She was not able to testify about coercive control specifically, but kind of danced around the subject. So now the jurors are going to have to try to figure out, is this normal or not, this sort of behavior? And I agree with this comment from Flora Paris, a guy completely untethered from, I'd say, decent behavior and perhaps even being a human. This guy thinks that being a celebrity allows you to beat on women. But the jury is going to have to figure out now, why is she posting these images and these quote unquote kind words or messages after the fact. And in one of these messages, again, coming 4 years to the day that she says Sean Diddy Combs assaulted her in the Plaza Hotel. So why is she posting this? the jury's going to have to figure out. She also posts, according to Brian Steele, who shows this, a group of people in Shawn Combs' backyard at his pool with a caption, "The reason I never made it out last night." Brian Steele, after showing that photo, says, "All of this is done voluntarily by you, Mia." And she answers, "Yes." So they are chipping away. And you'll notice here, in listening to this, it is much, much different than the cross of Cassie Ventura. Everyone was kind of tiptoeing around that. You've got this pregnant government star witness, the primary person who this trial is basically revolving around, other than Sean Diddy Combs, that he had assaulted her sexually and verbally and physically. And they had to be very careful. They had a woman crossing her. It was much more gentle. At one point, that person crossing her even said how beautiful you look and how smart you are. Here, it's a different situation. They're going hard on her, and they're bringing up the receipts with images from social media and saying, "Hey, you're saying one thing, but you're posting another." Again, up for the jury to decide. Just about 45 minutes before lunch, they get back to Burning Man, which we've heard over and over. It's odd because I cannot picture Sean Diddy Combs at Burning Man, but that's just me. And the defense here highlights her posing near Shawn Combs and, again, making more positive captions. And Mia had acknowledged abuse already occurred at this time. Mia explains, again, why she posted so positively about Shawn Combs, basically saying that social media was her facade to kind of keep a fence around her family so they would not know sort of the trouble and the misery, to use her word, that she was in. About a half hour before lunch, Shawn Combs changed his birthday one year. The defense asks about this happy new birthday post. Mia confirms it was something Shawn Combs wanted. I guess when you're that powerful in your own mind, you can change the day that you were brought into this earth, and that's what he did, and she complied. Why did she comply? I think that's sort of irrelevant, but that's just me. Mia posts this birthday message from Shawn Combs after he threatened her, and despite Combs threatening her, she says, "Yes, of course." She posted it. That was her response. "Yes, of course," when asked why she reposted despite all this trauma. So again, jurors could be confused. Why is she speaking complimentary of him after accusing him of doing these horrible things? I think most psychologists would say that it is a very common behavior. We've heard during this trial from people in our chat that it takes, I think, 7 tries to get away from a domestic violence abuser. And these women all seemed at one point or another to try to get away. Interesting post trial analysis. So they're on a lunch break right now. Guess who chimed in today? His old friend Suge Knight. They're arch enemies. Suge Knight West Coast, Diddy East Coast. Suge in prison. Apparently he was speaking, and he's got his own podcast. So I'm not sure, to be honest, if he was talking to media from prison or on his podcast. But he came out publicly, Suge Knight did, and suggests that Shawn Combs should testify himself to humanize himself. Legal experts immediately, of course, weighed in, saying that it is very risky and likely inadvisable. And most believe that Shawn Combs is going to invoke his right to remain silent. By the way, the interview I'm seeing here, it was actually with CNN, and they've done some pretty good work on this. And Suge Knight says Combs should take the stand, and the quote is here, "to tell his truth." To tell his truth. I think that'll probably get him 900 years in prison, if that was possible, but I don't think he can tell us truth. However, I do think that Sean Diddy Combs, and I've talked about this before, is an amazing manipulator. He does have charm. He has a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde component to him, and he can be incredibly charming and persuasive. And I think if he gets up there on the stand, Rosa's asking, I've asked the same question. How does Suge Knight have a podcast from jail? I have no idea. I'm starting to have no idea how prisons work. I used to be absolutely terrified of them, and then I find out you can have a podcast, so maybe it's not that bad. You just can't podcast in the shower, because if you're in the shower in prison, apparently that's where you get the crap beat out of you. Bill Davis says, this is probably a good comment. The last person I take legal advice from is Suge Knight. And by the way, they might be trolling him. Who knows? Because Suge Knight probably wants to see him go away. I don't really know. I don't follow the beef between them, or if it's been settled or any of this stuff. But long story short, here is now there's a question of, will Shawn Combs take the stand? And I've seen crazier things, and this is New York City, and this is about a celebrity hip-hop star. And trust me, if he takes the stand, we're going to see what we saw the first week, which is every media truck in New York, every publication from around the world, the Times of India, the London Times, all people who I saw when I was there, they're going to be back there at the federal courthouse, and they're going to be, reporting on Shawn Combs taking the stand. If he does, I might even go back up there, and all you need is one juror to turn. And would that be enough? It's possible. That's what's scary. Look, we all remember O.J. Simpson, but if you think about O.J. pre-trial, I lived for a year or two in upstate New York when my dad was doing his medical residency, and I had, up until recently, I don't know what happened to it, and I'm upset. I had a Buffalo Bills helmet with the number 32 on it. Everyone loved OJ. The guy was as charismatic as they got. I mean, he did Monday Night Football. He did the Hertz commercials. The guy was just articulate, handsome, likable. I wouldn't say Sean Diddy Combs is too handsome. He's no O.J. Simpson in terms of looks. However, he's got the charm. He's got the charisma. And who knows what he could do on that stand in terms of persuading one juror. So we will see how it goes. Betsy here, go Bills. If anyone has a couple quick questions or comments, I will take them. Yeah, everybody loved OJ. Look, even Canine Catherine, one of the sweetest people on earth, generous, giving Catherine, who would never support a murderer. And I said it. OJ did it, man. He's not with us anymore. She says OJ was an icon. I loved OJ. Yeah, and Becky Ireland saying, I bet this moron takes the stand. I would not doubt it for a moment. Diddy is by far the worst of the worst that I have heard of. I would agree. Yeah, just an awful human being. Just imagine, like, I've said this before, just imagine, like, your ego is that big. Rachel D. We've got a funny community here. Rachel back from a trip to Tokyo. She was giving me egg prices breakdowns, because we've been talking about egg prices. Joel, hot or not, criminal edition, OJ versus Diddy, hot or not? We could do a hot or not. Yeah, so there you go. Thank you, Griffin. I appreciate this. Not everyone thinks this, including my kids and my wife sometimes. But she says, Joel, you're the best. What else? Oh, most important thing that I have not mentioned yet. Guess who's back today? Bill and Scott and Nugget, 5 p.m. And we're going to talk about this lunatic, The Devil and the Ozarks. If you guys, I watched it's a one episode doc. You can find it on Prime, but it's about this sheriff, Grant Harden, who is convicted of murder. And then once he was convicted, they did a DNA swab of an R-ing of a woman, of a school teacher from 1997. And guess who it came back to? Grant Harden, this police chief. And he dressed up as a corrections officer in a medium security prison. I don't know why he's being kept there. There was a maximum side to this medium security prison, but the external security there is for a medium security prison. And this guy, Grant Harden, just walks out. He walks out, dressed, pushing something, dressed as a corrections officer. they didn't notice for over 2 hours. And this is in the Ozarks and a part of Arkansas where there's a lot of forest and woods, and they believe he is hanging out there. He is said to be armed, potentially armed, and very, very dangerous either way. And the family of his victim, as well as our victim of the SA, they're terrified, and rightly so. They say that this guy is an absolute sociopath, psychopath. So we're going to talk to Phil and Scott about how did this happen? What do you do? How do you track this guy down? I think today is day 6 that they're looking for him. And you know what's going to happen? About 7 minutes before the show, they will find him, and then my show will implode. But then I'll just sit there and talk to Phil and Scott about whatever. Joyce Kirby in a RICO case, which is one of the serious charges here among the many that Sean Diddy Combs is facing. The RICO is the racketeering that they use for mobsters. If and when found guilty, is there a sentencing phase? Is it in judge's hands or jury to decide? That is a great question that I should know the answer to, and I simply don't. My guess is this is going to be, the judge makes the decision. I don't know for sure. I'm sure people in STS Nation. I do know that in federal court, I learned the judge picks the jurors. There is no voir dire from the defense team. They are picked by the judge. So there you go. Furry Bun Bun, perhaps one of my new favorite names, becoming a YouTube member. Thank you, Furry Bun Bun. Appreciate it. Looking at some other comments. Monica Larimore, so late. You can always go back and watch it on replay. If you'd be so kind, you could hit that like button and the subscribe button. We would really appreciate that. Look at this. This guy is doing media left and right. Suge was on Piers Morgan yesterday. Piers Morgan, he's another interesting character. He is an other interesting character, that Piers Morgan. He's good. He's good at what he does. He's good at riling everybody up. IGG Rock says, Joel, Phil, and Scott could make tap water an interesting topic. They always have a related story. Did I ever tell you the time? This is actually a true story. It's amazing. I am visiting my grandmother, my mother, after World War II. And if you haven't read the book, it's the same title as the podcast, Surviving the Survivor. And it is my mother's child Holocaust survival story. It's also life advice from her after losing a child, losing her husband during the writing of the book, my dad. And after the war, the book will change your life. After the war, my grandmother moved to Switzerland, and she lived in the equivalent of a postcard, or like on a postcard. She lived in a city called Lausanne, Switzerland, in the mountain, like in the foothills of the mountains of the Swiss Alps, but with Lake Geneva at the bottom. And so when I was a kid, I used to go there fairly often, and I'll never forget. Look at Canine Cat. There's actually a cool story what I'm about to tell you. So this was if you've never seen Lake Geneva, Google it. It's unreal. It's hard to explain how beautiful it is. And as a little kid, I would always remember there were these big white swans, and there were like these ferry boats, and I would always be like, "Whoa, look at this! Look at this!" But First Coffee. I live 40 minutes away. Where do you live? But First Coffee. And I forget, Charlie Chaplin lives right near there, or is where he's from, and I can't remember the name of the town. And the book is available on Audible. Thank you. So anyway, long story short, I'd get excited every summer whenever we would go to see my grandmother. It was literally like, again, being hermetically sealed inside a postcard. That's how beautiful it was. And one time, my dad and Carm, my mom, took me to the other side of the lake. And what is on the other side of the lake? This is going to now circle back to the topic of tap water. There is a literal tap sticking out of the mountainside. And guess what the name of that town is? It is Evian, France. Evian. So it is a real town, Evian, And that is where Evian water comes from. And it literally comes from a spring. And so in this town, in different locations, there is like, they are like little spigots, like faucets, literally like drilled in to this spring, which is, attached to the side of a mountain. Don't ask me about the geography of it, but I will never forget this. And you can ask Carmen. I have a photo of this. I had a Frenchman you can go up, like the tourists can go up and you can fill your water bottles with pure Evian water. And the guy who was in line in front of us, who was filling up what appeared to be a bottle the size of like a pickle barrel, because it would never stop. But the label on the bottle was an empty bottle, and the label said Perrier. And that was like sacrilegious. He was filling up a Perrier bottle at the Evian spring. So how crazy is that? And I took a picture of this. I was a little kid, but I have a photo, and it's probably on one of those yellow disposable cameras. And where that picture is, I have no idea. But honestly, I probably win awards for that photo. Rachel D, anything but Dasani. Yeah, now we're into a topic of, maybe we will discuss tap water today if they catch this fugitive and I have no show. Anyway, I've run out of things to say. I want to take this opportunity to say that I love this community like my own family. I really do. You guys are amazing. And Joel's first news story, Black Widow, perhaps you're right about this. Perrier Gate. I don't even think the COE knows the story unless she's listening, which it doesn't appear that she is. So, my daughter's graduating 5th grade. It is like graduating from Harvard Law School. I have graduation next week. Carm is getting back from the Holy Land that morning. Carm said to me, she prefaced it. She said, don't give me any, don't respond, don't yell, blah, blah, blah. I said, what? She goes, I get in at 5:30 in the morning on your daughter's graduation day. I wanted to be there. And she's like, and you're picking me up. To which I said, no problem. I said, no problem, Carm. I'll be there. Be there at 5:30 in the morning on a day where my daughter's graduating 14 hours later. I'll do about 7 podcasts in between, no problem. I'll leave you with some therapy. I just feel like I'm never working enough, everybody. Just never working enough. I think people are like, oh, you do a podcast. That's fun. That's hilarious. That's not a real job. But I work on this literally 24/7 because there's a lot of different aspects to it, including a business side of things, which I never really attend to because I'm always working focused on the content. So I say to myself, I'm not working enough. What am I doing? I want to put in 1,050%. Mayor Koch, my dad loved this. My dad absolutely loved this. I'm all over the place right now. But Mayor Koch would ask people in New York City, and I met Mayor Koch, who was a very nice guy. May he rest in peace. And by the way, he was a fairly big guy. He was like 6'1", 6'2". When you look at old pictures, by the way, who could talk about Shawn Combs, Perrier, Evian, and Ed Koch? Whoever's listening to this right now is like, this guy's an absolute lunatic. But long story short, I got to meet Ed Koch one time. Very nice guy. He's much taller and bigger than he appears in person. But Mayor Koch used to ask New Yorkers in the street, and my dad loved this. I know my dad was a quirky guy who loved quirky people. How am I doing? There it is. Deer in the headlights. Deer in the headlights. Nose. Ed Koch would walk around New York City. How am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? He would ask people, how am I doing? Which my dad, again, I didn't even know what this meant when my dad said this. And I am telling you right now, I'm not asking for adulation. I'm not asking for accolades. I'm just asking you, how am I doing? Because I never feel like I'm working hard enough. There's a full circle moment. I'm going to go home. I'm going to get out the whip and I'm going to beat myself with that whip. I don't have a whip, by the way, but I just feel like I'm never doing enough. So now I'm exhausted, and I'm going to drag my ass to the gym and get a workout in, and then I'll be back here to prep for the 5, and then we'll do the 5 o'clock with Phil and Scott. Phil and Scott and Nugget. If you haven't seen, thank you, in the good. In the good, that's the first time I'm seeing your name, so welcome. Thank you. Flora Paris, I'm imagining Combs' response to this. She's probably just shaking her head, just rolling. Yeah, Jane, I'm glad you said this. Piers is another raging narcissist. You know, it's interesting. Annie K says, Joel, you're doing well enough to relax and enjoy. Oh, thank you, Angie. I appreciate this. I swear to you, I'm not asking for accolades. If I'm doing horribly, though, I'll just go walk on water, like Diddy said to Mia. I mean, that's all that there's left to do. Anyway, that's my full circle story. There was something. If you haven't seen, Phil sent me a beautiful picture of Nugget, which I zoomed in on, and I have posted on Instagram. It is at Surviving the Survivor. So we will see, God willing, we will see Nugget in 4 hours and 27 minutes. I hope I can meet Corum one day. My great uncle Jim was a World War II vet and a veteran of the Battle of the Bulge. Look at that. Thank you for his service. And I'd love to show her the pictures of his unit patch, infantry patch, and dog tags. That's super cool. And listen, I had to go get some PT on the neck yesterday, and I was talking to a guy, and you know what? Just thought he was a physical therapist. He did 4 tours of duty in the Marine Corps overseas, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and super great guy. You just never know. And he was telling me about his first firefight and how he froze on the battlefield, and his commander had to literally rip him down to the ground by his shirt collar. He's a big guy. But you just never know who you're talking to or the experiences that you've been. So be kind to everybody. Be kind to everybody. Be kind to yourself. You know what, Joel? You're working hard enough. How about that? That's me being kind to myself. Love you, America. Let's get justice for Cassie, Ventura, Mia, and other victims, no doubt, of Sean Diddy Combs. The guy's an absolute raging lunatic. You know what? Maybe he should have just taken his money and gone to Evian and poured water into a bottle and just listened to the trickling of that water. It may have calmed him down. You never know. Perhaps my weirdest, I guess, monologue in history has just ended at 1:35 on Friday, May 30th. Love you guys. We'll see you at 5 o'clock Eastern. We'll be talking about tap water for 2.5 hours.